shows up. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December Trees and Public Greenery Committee. First order of thank you to DPW for all of their work.
All their work.
Thank you.
Those guys.
And
Well done.
and we also have the
Accept the minutes.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Removal.
We're gonna write that down.
Stephanie's usually pretty good about it.
Thank you, Dennis, which is why you have to get. Max.
Tree removal requests. Do we have, so we have some people in the audience who would like to, someone like to come up first and speak about a tree that they're here for? Start with you, sure.
45 Pleasant. It's the first one.
Where do you want me?
Come on up,
yeah,
here.
yeah.
A seat at the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, what tree are you here for?
I'm here for the trees on Pleasant Point Drive.
Fantastic, 45 Pleasant Point, that's the first one we have.
And that aren't there any, I'm sure you know that. So I'm Reverend Betsy Tabor. I happen to be a Unitarian minister. My husband and I bought the house right to the left of that house in that beautiful neighborhood with quite a canopy over the whole neighborhood. At the time we bought, there was a wooded lot across the street from us. There was a wooded lot next to us that used to be right to the right of the blue house. You can see all those trees are gone right now. The trees to the right of that house are now gone.
These right here?
Behind the
Right
house.
now,
Yeah.
right, all those, yeah. So there were those two wooded lots. I couldn't have a peninsula there because of all of the trees. I'm here with a book that I got for my birthday, which is today.
Yes.
3/4 of a century. A book by a friend of mine who's a poet who wrote about. There's a map of the ages of all the trees are here. These are all beings that she writes about, and of all things, she wrote them to me this morning, and I was like, oh, I'm bringing this as inspiration. So this canopy I talked has seen a huge amount of development. That wooded lot across the street is now a very big home with a lot of empty land around. You can't quite see it. That's
That lot right there.
oh yeah, you can't see it here from here.
It's Charlie's place.
There's Charlie's Place. Charlie's Place, we used to not be able to see. They took down a couple of enormous trees there. We look right at it and see it. And so let's see, I would just say that in the last couple of years, there's been a huge amount of development, new homes. John calls it tear down city, because they are all tear down. We've lost about 50 trees just in the last couple of years. So the place has changed, and to me, it feels like this canopy needs protecting because we're gonna look like I really like our new neighbors in this house. We've met with them several times and they're a delight. And that's important to me. That relationship's important to me. In Portland, Oregon, I understand any tree that comes down, public or private, has to be replaced with another tree. I would love to see something like this happen in Portsmouth. And if these trees come down, these river birches, I just hope on your land, on city land, our land, I just hope that that they would be replaced with something beautiful. Because it's not only about beauty, it's also about oxygen. These trees, I don't need to tell this committee, these trees breathe in CO2 and they breathe out oxygen. And they're all well more than 3/4 of a century old. And that's an important thing too. So thanks for listening. Thank you for existing. I was so happy to hear that a committee called Greenery exists.
Well, your neighbor Tilda Strauss, our former neighbor.
Yes.
Is the one that was
Oh, Ted,
initiated all this.
did you?
Yes. So she was the one that started all this, and then the Browns, who I see Chris right there, which is pretty funny.
Yes, and I just heard from them this morning. I said, hey,
Just those
I'm
two.
going to City Hall for your trees. Thank you very much. Yes, thanks so much.
For them being gone.
Anyone else?
So
Anyone else talking?
I know Robbie Woodburn was intending to be here. She's the landscape architect responsible for, the landscaping plan after this renovation is finished. I believe that was included in the bigger packet, so I don't have a copy of that to present here, but I do have one piece that I can, if we want to circulate that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Normally on these plans, it will tell us what species or variation of tree is gonna be replanted, but this does not. Do you?
I don't think there would be replacements for these two
Oh,
specific trees.
I'm sorry, on the
So-
other trees that are getting, because it
Oh,
looks
I
like
see.
they're planting a good amount of
Yeah.
additional trees in that front.
So Max, can
Yeah.
you clarify which trees are gonna be coming out? Because it looks like some of those 4 clusters
Are staying.
are on their property and not on city.
Yeah, this is, so, to speak to that, I believe whenever these were planted, I'm assuming by the previous homeowner, they either planted them right at the property line or unknowingly planted them onto the right of way. Seeing 4 river birch like that in a row tells me, all right, that's not something that the city typically does, or at least that we don't do now. So the 2 trees that are to be removed are the ones flanking that center walkway. So it'd be the 2 center multi-stems. Yep. So the other 2 trees, the other 2 river birch, the flanks are staying, but again, my understanding is there's no replacement for these 2 following removal.
It looks like to me I guess I'm confused. So is it because they're digging up this walkway? Because when I look on the plan, there's still a good amount of buffer to it looks like they're digging up that long walkway and kind of doing a.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna be doing a retaining wall to sort of elevate that sort of front walk area. And again, this is me secondhand putting
Yes,
it
of course,
together.
of course.
So if it would be more helpful to kick this to January and have Robbie, I did communicate with her that
Yeah.
we were doing this today, so.
I guess it just confuses me because the other 2 that they aren't removing look to me just as close. So I would want to know kind of why they think those 2, what within the construction plan they feel like they're going to disturb on those ones.
Yeah, it's a
So
great
is that a
question.
motion?
I would make the motion to delay till January and invite somebody from the project.
Sure.
Okay, we have a second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second that.
Scott, second. All in favor of tabling till January?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, just let.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some.
Let's see, where did Chris and
Yeah.
They're in
City
Portland.
you're still in Portsmouth?
Just north of Portland, just Yarmouth.
Is Molly up that way?
Yeah, with a grandbaby, that's when they sold and moved.
That's awesome.
Max, can you talk about, river birch is inherently a good tree to have in your salt water because it's it can take on that kind of harsh near a river. Does it absorb a lot of water? I mean, I know that they're a good tree to have.
They certainly, I can't speak to their salt tolerance. I'm sure we plant them here in the city, not necessarily in the right of way, but I'm sure they are tolerant to salt in certain respects. But yeah, if it's any kind of moist area, they'll certainly thrive.
They like wet feet.
Absolutely.
So they're
Yeah.
really good to have in certain places to capture some
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
backyard.
water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Market Street Extension has several clumps
I
of.
do, yeah.
Yeah, I
Them
really
in-
enjoy that.
In the drainage areas too,
Yeah.
we've thrown a few, and then
Mhm.
in the right of way space between, inbound and outbound
Yeah.
traffic on Market
So
Street.
not only is it for oxygen, but it's also for water retention. And so trees are very useful for lots of things and also for wind.
Gary?
Yes.
Can we move to the next one, the spruce down on the lower lot, because I have to.
Sure.
have,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, please come up.
If the chair is amenable.
Yes, absolutely.
I believe you spoke in, was it August? Yeah,
Come
so.
on up to the table.
I'm good here.
Oh, okay. So my findings, I do think this spruce is defoliating. It's continuing to defoliate. From my opinion, hasn't necessarily changed from August, with the exception being, there's no structural issue to this tree. We know that we have two spruce, and I think I mentioned this in August, we have two spruce practically dead standing in Langdon Park right now, not because it's just we haven't gotten through to remove those quite yet, but there's no structural issue with these trees. It can continue to defoliate. When we're at that point where, all right, we really need to remove this thing, we can do that. But at this point in time, it being sort of in the middle cluster, like in this larger cluster of trees. So in terms of its wind load, how much it takes on, it's certainly dampened overall. I think the one thing that I keep coming back to is we know it's declining, but should we just allow it to decline? Again, there's no structural issues, so am I feeling like it can absolutely exist here for several more years? And we'll call it when it's, when all of its needles are gone? Like I see no problem with that at this point in time.
Can you describe
Can I
the other trees?
Yeah,
Can I speak to this, please?
yeah.
I'm the neighbor who's been asking for
Can you
this
come up
tree
to
removed.
the, right here?
I'm Donna Acox. I am the blue house right there that you're seeing in the picture. I've been having this tree looked at since I bought the house in 2017. Cornerstone Tree, Micum from Cornerstone Tree came out in August of 2019. He thought at that time that it was his opinion it should be removed, and I did send something to Corin Holloway on August 14th of 2019 about this tree. I followed up with this tree one other time, and then it was followed up. I did not initiate the August 13th that I had no knowledge of, and we were gone for the meeting. But my concern is, and he even said back then that the flare of the tree, and I have pictures dating back, that instead of the root flaring out, it goes in. It's somewhat compacted around the root. And the meeting notes in August say that there is, fungal needle cast. It's been declining. My concern is, as you see that tree leaning, and Mr. LaRoche Gary's house is the one to the left of my house. My big concern is I'm in definite striking zone with that tree clunking, and then the big tree that is on the LaRoche's property. I'm very concerned about it being a domino effect and taking down my house.
So the concern is a city tree dominoing, falling into another tree, which causes then that tree.
That tree in and of itself can strike my house without
Sure.
the domino effect. And if it's already rotting and it's already
You can
declining,
use the word rotting.
okay,
Yeah.
it's declining.
Sure, yes.
And in, you had said in the August meeting that the tree is beyond treatment. That's,
absolutely.
So the waiting around until it completely declines or falls on my house, I just think is a liability and a risk to my property.
Sure. Yeah, I still stand by, I agree. I think there's a lot of duff around the base of that tree. So it's a lot of decomposing material, it's leaves, grasses, needles. It would, I haven't gone through and air spaded around the base of the tree in any meaningful way. So if it was a lot of construction material and rocks, and we're actually gonna be talking about that in another tree soon here.
And I'm all for replacing a tree.
Yeah, sure.
I have no problem. It's just that tree is so large and it's declining and, everything just keeps falling. And I just really think it's a risk to my property.
What have you seen what has fallen off of this tree?
Oh, there's limbs that fall. There's limbs, there's the needles in the yard. I've had pine things in my screens that I've had to replace screens for. with pine needles and things and sticks sticking through the screen and falling on the shed that you can't see in the picture, but there's well, yeah, you kind of can see the outline of the shed. It's constantly plunking the roof and things of that.
Do you recall what Corin Hollowell said after you reached out to him in August or back in 2019?
He said he kind of tabled it for a bit,
Okay.
watching it and things of that nature in 19. Because the city had come in earlier, it's gone. Further to the right of that tree, closer to where my property comes to the corner, there was another large tree and it was really beyond repair, and that one was removed. Unfortunately, to get to that tree, coming a little closer to me, where those kind of to the left of that trailer thing, there was another tree, and unfortunately, the city, whomever did the work, took another tree down. That was not by request or anything. It was logistically, I think, to get to the other tree. And that was unfortunate that that one came down. I had nothing to do with or ask about that, but I think he felt at the time I would have been happy to have it done at the same time. And he said, wait. So I have waited since like 18, I think, was when that other tree was removed.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Just make a comment. I think. I mean, I obviously,
I would prefer you to come because there is a microphone up here. Sorry.
obviously,
And just reintroduce
yeah,
yourself.
my name's Gary Larash. I'm at 18 Mount Vernon Street, which is you can see the yellow house, and the tree directly abuts my property. That's my backyard, and then where my neighbor at 15 Mount Vernon Street, the gray building, there is a large, I believe it's a huge maple that's been there for, it's got to be hundreds of years, just like probably this spruce. I don't know any other neighbors. You might have gotten other complaints about the tree. I don't know any other. There's a neighbor to the right who if that tree was going to fall, is probably going to fall off to the right in if there was any type of wind damage or wind that came through. So, again, I disagree wholeheartedly that the tree needs to be removed. I mean, I from the unprofessional eye, it looks like it's looked for the last 10 years that I've been there. Again, I'm not a professional, but from the naked eye, it doesn't look like it's materially deteriorating. I don't see browning of the thing right now. You can go into my backyard and you won't see a brown speck of any type of needles. I haven't seen any major limbs coming down from this tree. Part of spruces, they do shed their needles. And it's unfortunate that people build houses into trees and then want to remove trees. I just don't understand that concept. But anyway, I strongly disagree at this point that we need to remove that tree. So
thank you. Gary.
appreciate your consideration again and helping out.
Any questions,
So,
discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd be interested in postponing a vote on this, to have the opportunity to talk to Micah, get a second opinion. I know Micah Davis very well. I respect him. He is not somebody that recommends removing
I
trees.
agree.
If he feels strongly that the tree should be removed, and in all respect, Max, there are different things, and maybe he's done a little bit more, and that's something he can point to you and say, hey, this is different. It'll give us more information to base whether we remove this tree or not. So that would be my motion.
Joe?
I would second that motion, and then I did see AJ had his hand up. I wasn't
Oh,
sure
I
if
didn't realize it
still.
was online.
Good pickup, Joe.
Where are we? I need to stop sharing. Should have promoted him to a whatever you call it,
Analyst.
panelist. Thank you. AJ Dupree. To panelist. Hey AJ, sorry, I didn't realize you were online. You can speak.
Please.
Just gotta unmute. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry, had to join in late from remote site. So Max, earlier you were talking about digging around the basement. I don't know if, if it's still possible to do that or not. I do agree that spruces are good and tough, with your early assessment, but doing some digging might reveal some details. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know if Mike and had already done that or not.
I wouldn't think so, only because it's a tree on city property, or a request from a resident wouldn't trigger, him to go out and explore a city tree like that. Yeah,
When I went and looked at it last week, I didn't really know where personal property was and city property and everything else, so I did not look at the base at all.
Well, it wouldn't be before us, AJ, if it was a.
and I do have so in that slide packet, there is a very unsophisticated picture that I took using my pair of binoculars and my smartphone just to get a little bit closer of an image to the top portion of that tree.
Yep.
And you can see that a lot of those needles, a lot of those twigs are dying, no needles. So, I mean, is that an indicator of it declining? Yes, absolutely. But to your point, there's still plenty of green needles up there. And again, it's just a symptom of the tree, shedding its needles. So is it happening at a slow rate? That appears to be the case for me, but obviously getting a second opinion in. So if we, push this to January, or whenever we can get someone else out there, Micah or whomever, to come out and take another look, so be it.
Okay.
But I don't think we have to act so quickly here to, make a decision again, and do a little bit more investigating would be really helpful. So
I appreciate the mindful approach.
Yes, so we have a motion
Peter.
from Peter and seconded by,
Yeah, so we'll get
And
that,
the
get that
motion,
follow-up review.
motion is,
Motion
on
to
public
postpone
record that I will hold this
to be
meeting.
able to do more investigation,
This,
have a
this,
conversation
this
with
whole
Mike
meeting
Davis,
is on public record.
for a second opinion. And if we have to, if we have to spend a little bit of money, we've done that before to get a second opinion. So he isn't feeling like he's hanging out in the wind.
yes.
Doing
Free,
something
a free,
for the
yeah.
city at no cost.
Okay,
That's great, Peter. Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for coming in, both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Hey, Max.
all right.
Down the list.
McNabb Court.
Yes.
Such a little road that I go off into.
The gift that keeps on giving, McNabb Court. So this was brought up after last month's meeting. Some concern about, this Norway maple that remains after the removal of 2 additional trees. So looking at this photo on the left-hand side, we have that large multi-stem Norway that's on private property. The ash in the center there was already approved for removal, EAB.
Yeah.
And now this Norway maple here, another multi-stem, I'm hoping to have removed as well. And then on the next photo, Peter, there's gonna be 2 photos. Yeah, so looking at how buried this is in comparison to the ash, you could really see those roots. Everything was above ground. And also that likely could have been due to a little bit of erosion. But for what it's worth, we see a lot of compacted soil on the backside here, no visible root flare anywhere. So this is likely, again, caused by the construction of, whenever an addition was done or whatever, they just backfilled and then put all these rocks around it. And then, it's just, I'm right here, I'm kind of showing, right, we have this large multi-stem tree. The fact that it's sort of exposed on top of this little hill between houses, we know that can increase wind loading, and then just the fact that it's just that exposure, and then these 2 structural elements here. I would prefer this tree to also be removed. If it was just the ash being removed and the homeowner nearby was like, you know what, let's keep that other Norway maple, sure, we could probably make that work. But because 2 trees are being removed, I think it makes sense to have this 3rd one also removed.
I think this one is a good example of those trees there. When they're no longer there, there's going to be a big hole for trees in that whole area.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like on private property coming down McNabb, if that would be a place to see if we could put a tree in.
Yeah,
Because as opposed to the last one that we looked at, if that spruce, if we take that spruce out, there's other trees there.
sure.
Right.
And so there's really no impact
Yeah.
visually
Absolutely.
for that loss, but here there's gonna be a big impact and a big hole there.
Yeah.
Right. And also from South Street, can't you see,
Yeah.
you know, the canopies of those trees up in the back of the house,
I
correct?
think if you're looking for it, yeah.
Yeah, where it just
Yeah.
adds this level, this
Yeah,
layer.
yeah, sure, absolutely.
And as we continue to lose these big ash trees, you know, when we're talking about other big trees coming down and our canopy shrinking, becoming lower and lower in the city, you know, sort of like Lilliput land. You know, I am sensitive to big trees coming down,
Yeah.
but I understand about wind and other.
It did come up with a few of the residents. They are absolutely, so that's the city's paper road. I mean, we can, you know, obviously not right there, but I think what would make more sense is to have at least one large or two large shade trees planted back near where McNabb ends. And that way, if we do have to, you know, the future foreman in 20, 30 years when they have to come and prune it or say remove it, you know, at least it's accessible from the end of McNabb as opposed to at the top of this paper road. So I'm absolutely intending on planting trees, at least 2 in this site. So yeah, if for what it's worth to, you know, keep that canopy rolling and make sure we can into the future continue to maintain it as opposed to there's no access. Even speaking to the homeowner at the top of the hill whose driveway is off of South Street, even if we got our bucket truck in there, we could set up and do some pruning work, but you know, actual removing and the accessibility is really poor.
It's
So
dangerous.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, we don't work over houses all that often, so being kind of over 3 different properties and you know, I'm not super keen on having our crew go out there and do something like that.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to remove that tree.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
I
Bye.
I guess
Opposed?
Oh,
Opposed?
somebody has their hand raised.
So this
Oh,
this gentleman wants to speak to it.
Okay, hold that thought.
Derek, we can hear you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, can you speak up?
Yeah, yes, I can. My name is Derek Rolfe, and I am the owner of the house that you see in the photos. The one that the tree is really just a few feet off of. And I know I had spoken to Max and said, boy, I would love to take that tree down, but it was in the context of really just that one tree that we're talking about. Now that we've got 2 other trees right nearby coming down, I think it's gonna feel a little barren in the area, looking a little bit exposed. So if it's possible to keep that tree, I'd like to advocate.
Derek, if we planted trees in that location, would that be an acceptable?
Yeah. So I guess it would depend on where the trees are going to be located and what kind of trees are being put in. I think one of the things we like, someone had referenced like the view from South Street. And that's where our driveway is, and when you come in, and it's kind of one of the first things you see when you're walking or driving into the driveway. You know, those trees kind of stop your eye and they make the whole yard look a little bit softer. But if you're putting trees down low on the area that Max referenced, I don't think that's going to give us the same feel.
Okay, so where are we now?
So we voted to remove the ash
Right,
Which
and the
is,
Norway maple.
was the ash the one in the middle?
Yes.
one foot down further,
Yes.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
last-
Norway
the
maples.
last time.
And then the neighbor,
Second Norway maple.
Yeah.
To the left in this photo.
yep, and that's on private property. The other Norway that
Yeah,
so that one's
one of
already,
the, one of the 3 will stay.
And that's the one on the right-hand side,
And-
which kind of goes to.
No, on the left hand. This one's private.
Uh-huh,
So these are the two.
okay,
This one.
So this is the ash and this is the,
right.
is it has all the,
Uh-huh.
just sitting underneath these rocks. It's like they literally put the rocks there to hold down the root system.
To
Does the
me,
opposite.
Exactly.
I mean, can another tree be planted up high on it in a similar location?
kind of had that green.
Right there, Max, right below those rocks.
It's,
Yeah.
it's absolutely possible. It will come down to, yeah, I don't know. It is possible. I think
If we move some of those rocks around, Derek, were those rocks put there as a pathway or what was were those just?
Yeah, so that was a retaining to hold the soil. Over 20 years ago, there was a big tree where our deck is now. And when that came down, the hill started to erode. So those rocks were placed there just to hold the soil.
So what if we looked at putting what tree, where's my cursor, right in this location?
Milwaukee.
That would be great. Good with me.
What size tree would
Is that
we be
doable?
putting
yeah,
in?
it's always doable.
Temp-
It's just a question of, I mean, the slope is gonna be pretty extreme for planting. I mean, again, it's possible. We can absolutely do it.
You do something
Yeah.
similar that we did in the back of City Hall where we had that sloped.
Yeah, we just have to
Mulch.
build up
We just have to build the mulch up a little
yeah.
bit.
It won't have immediate impact.
No,
No.
no. And I mean, and
Years.
truthfully, it's not a problem that this arborist foreman will have to, say in 20 years, 30 years, it has to be removed or something. Like the pruning.
30
What,
years.
how hopeful are you that you're?
The pruning is gonna be slight for the first, so like, yeah, realistically, we can do it. I'm just wary of putting a tree back in that place. I see no reason not to. I think I'm just thinking of the long-term implication of having a tree up on a slope like that and the maintenance required. I mean, we're not gonna be able to grind any of these stumps for what it's worth. Our unit is not designed to work on a slope of that grade. And I think I'd already spoken to Derek, I can't remember the name of your wife, but
Wendy.
we had spoke and just think we would cut these stumps as low to the ground as possible and then put some like a rock or something on top of it to try and hide the fact that there's a stump in there. But yeah, I mean,
But the roots will hold the soil in too. I mean.
Yeah,
so that-
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
that'll
yeah,
help establish, until something else establishes.
yeah, I mean, I see no reason to not plant a tree up that high. We may need to move a few of the rocks, like just me speculating and trying to imagine what it could look like. But yeah, I take no great issue with planting a tree up in that location.
Okay, thank you all. I have to drop off. I've got to get to an 8:30 meeting. So thank you.
Thank you,
All
Derek.
right, Derek, have a good holiday.
You too. Bye, Peter.
Amend the.
So my vote in opposition is the city's liability of a major erosion washout. I don't know how long those roots of the trees taken out will hold that soil condition. If that whole banking comes down, you got some cleaning up to do.
Yeah, I don't share that concern. I mean, we have removed a couple Norway spruce in the corner over here next to
Oh, sort of at the top of the boiler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
I had concerns about that, and it's held together fairly well for over 10 years now. Thing there, the stones, the stumps will hold that in place, so I'm not overly concerned about that.
So Max, is other than the fact that this is buried at the base and it has that multi-stem, the double leader, central leader with the tree.
Norways are pretty,
Can't kill them.
yeah, they're pretty hardy.
That's the other thing I'm thinking about is just the fact that this is a Norway rather
Yeah.
than an oak or a.
Could you put another Norway in there?
No, because in other,
It's a bad look.
we're not at that point yet, but Norways in other municipalities are considered invasive species. So we try and not eliminate them unjustly, but for me, when I'm looking at this tree, the increased exposure, I mean, it doesn't look, I think with the two other trees gone, it really will be really exposed to more external forces like wind and snow loading and everything. So that's my big concern, especially because there's no great access to that space. So
we're in there with a crane already,
That's,
take care of it.
yeah, you know, they've been pruning it, so how I usually approach removals is like, all right, like, is there an alternative? Can we reduce? Can we make some sort of like pruning? I think here, because these residents have been having this tree pruned for their house clearance, and you can see there's really, you know, that whole bottom half of the tree has been there are fresh pruning marks on it still, so they've been making prunes on it for a long time. And, you know, I don't think there's a viable pruning option here for this tree. Can we reduce the canopy? Yes. Will that have an adverse effect on the overall like vigor and health of the tree? Yeah, absolutely. So in my view, it's just one of those things where, you know, it's not a great site for a single tree to be. And because it has those two that one site defect with the buried roots and all of that, I have no idea how long that's been there. Pairing that with the multi-stem nature of the structure of this tree just doesn't add up to me.
Okay, are we all? you have
Did AJ vote
AJ, what's your thought?
on did you vote on the motion, AJ?
I voted to take them both out just for the logistics more than anything else. And Max, that hillside is pretty steep, but you definitely could do a little retaining wall and put in a couple of trees. And if you're looking at long-term issues with them, put in something, you know, medium size.
Yeah.
If he's just looking for some privacy, you could put a couple of evergreens on that slope pretty easily.
Okay.
We like that?
Yes. Thank you, AJ. Okay, so we have a motion.
You voted.
Did we all vote?
Yes.
I don't think we asked if there were any opposition votes.
Can we redo the vote?
Sure.
Because I'd like to change my vote.
Okay, the motion is to remove. Okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Okay, and all opposed? Okay, thank you. 3 opposed, and I will make note of who they are.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
with all due respect.
Floundering. Who voted no?
I was Scott.
Deb, Scott, and myself.
It's okay.
I know, it's tough. Okay. Max.
Ready to move on?
485, I believe so.
45 Union Street, we got a pin oak here. On the house facing side of the tree, there was a leader failure some time ago. And as we can see, there's a bit of a crack forming in the heartwood, which isn't, you know, by itself, you know, we talk about heartwood, you know, not necessarily making up the overall structural strength of the tree, but when we look at the overall loss of the exterior of the tree, yeah, it's just, to me, I wanted to wait and see, because this happened a little bit earlier, wanted to wait and see how the tree responded. And now that we're seeing, you know, this crack forming between these two leaders, yeah, just my concern and the residents' concern is that, you know, why risk it? The thought to do some reduction to the canopy came across my mind, but at the end of the day, I think the loss from that tear out is so significant that we may as well remove it. And this is very similar to that saying, there was a linden that had a tear out on Colonial Drive. It was 50 Colonial Drive or 51. And under similar terms, we approved for the removal of that tree.
And so can you talk a little bit about a pit oak? Once it starts to decline, is it a snapping kind of tree or? What's its decline?
They're
resilient.
They are, yes, yeah. I think if we were to try some kind of pruning, it would be really extensive, and I don't know if it would be the ultimate solution to something like this. Just because there's really no, you know, at least in my understanding, I don't think there's really a strong, you know, we would have to wait for that tree to really seal around a wound of that size for it to structurally be more sound. Aside from that, you know, making reductions to the canopy is of course always an option, but I think here in this case, I don't.
Not a lot there to.
Yeah,
So if you took that limb that's extended over the driveway out, does the tree lose its center balance?
This one?
yeah, I would think so. Because that's a very significant portion of the tree.
You'd have to take this as well.
It would realistically be, I think just to really take the sail out, it would be a reduction to all the lengths of every single leader up on that, every branch, everything would really need to be reduced. And the effect that would have on the tree's overall health would be significant. So,
Sad.
I also feel like it would start getting really close to all of those wires. There's a lot of power lines just around it in every direction. And I feel like then at a certain point, Eversource is wanting to chop it, and it's just like, it's a no-win situation for it.
Okay, do we have a motion for removal?
I'll make that motion.
Dennis?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
I
All right.
We're ending on a high note, guys.
I just
I'm
hate,
real keen on taking it down, but I
me
get
neither.
it.
Yeah.
Even though they're, they're pretty
Contextually,
rugged.
trees and.
Whatever,
It's just
I mean,
hard in
I
that space. There's not a lot until you.
I think it'd be, yeah, I'll acquiesce to the.
there's no space for.
All right, unanimous
Tree in there.
in favor.
And well, yeah, sorry, are we finished?
Thank you, yes.
And I
Please
think when we
advise
take,
that
you know, these big trees and we all say, oh, we're going to replace it, well, you know, 20 years from now. And with the ash, I just feel like, you know, when it comes to removing big trees after we have to take the ash down, there's no question. I totally get that. We just need to pump on the brakes or, you know, and just a little time lag to see what we look like.
Sure.
I don't know. That's just my passionate feel about big trees in our town.
I appreciate that, and in the past, I would have felt the same, but I've seen in my short tenure, you know, a tree planted right next to my house, which I thought would take forever, and it's now, you know, it's a big tree.
True. I understand. Right.
And it's providing shade and all those things, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Do you have
for
any,
trees, that was.
Noise
fun, yeah.
factor will be appreciated. They don't lose their leaves until spring, and they just rattle all winter long.
Yeah.
do we have any old business? Here, new business? Deb is going to bring forth something in January, right?
Yes. Okay. Michael and I will. I just think we will. You're on my committee now. The tree walk committee with Allison.
Yes, I've got everything identified. I don't know how extensive you want to relabel some of those trees. We got to come up with a better system.
Yes, we do.
The weed whackers take those markers out instantly.
Yeah, so we'll report on that more. We have a lot of things to tease out, you know, as we know, as putting identification signs that hang on the branches, that's not an answer either.
So
'Cause
that's
that's,
not.
but I must say, I went walking on Little Harbor where we did a tree ID walk in 2021. We did 8 trees, and there was a high blueberry bush stake in the ground, and it's still there. That just gives me great faith in people. Every time I come around that corner, I'm like, did somebody need it? No, they didn't need it yet. It's just wonderful. So, yeah.
Do you want all of them identified?
No.
Because there's
Just
a lot of
highlights, but
there's
we'll report on this.
duplicates in there.
So what we're doing is we're going to try to construct a tree walk with QR codes that will Little Harbor, South Cemetery, all the way to the North Cemetery. And for our public to enjoy, and like to tap Max and you know, notable trees between the 2 cemeteries. It'll be great. It's just another little inner tour for people of Portsmouth.
Have you done the
Great.
tour?
I sure have, but I want to broaden it.
I think it's a great idea. I know
Me
the trees
too.
that are identified in the Mount Auburn Cemetery. They use stainless steel? I'm not sure.
I can't remember. there's actually.
Ricky
a
Simpson has offered to do
pamphlet
some
when you go
idea
in. It's beautiful.
Oh, let's bring them in, yeah.
name tags.
And we used what we used in Little Harbor. It was very interesting. We used a particular aluminum nails that have a spring in the back of them. So as the tree grows, so grows the sign. And what I was looking at is the white pine. They were still tight up against the tree, but the cherry. But it had grown out a little bit. So it was kind of interesting to see that little experiment,
Cool.
but very, very rewarding.
Great.
Dennis, can you share yesterday's public meeting that you put together?
I gave a talk at the senior center, and Pat and Michael were there, and it was a lot of fun. And people asked a lot of questions. We had a good time. We really did.
Yeah.
You're gonna plan on doing another one at some point?
I don't have anything planned yet,
Okay.
but somebody asked me this morning if I'd do another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it.
Cool.
Yeah, it was great because it was about tree structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the aspects of trees that many of us don't know anything
Maybe we
about.
do a talk at like community campus or something too and open it up to like.
Sure.
Yeah,
Or-
library or,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, like
right.
like a kid's version of like trees and me's, like because we do like the grandparents and kids days at the senior center and like family days at community campus. I think I'm telling you, as especially during like election season, people come up and be like, well, the city's chopping down all these trees. And I'm like, actually, let me inform you about and I just think it's like the more and more information, and I always think the more and more it can come from just citizens who are involved versus elected officials or city staff. I think it just feels, even though it's the same level of authentic, it just feels like it's like, hey, I'm just I'm your neighbor and I put my time and energy into this. So I think
And talking with Mrs. Tabor, she felt that if there was education going on in her neighborhood the last 10 years, that perhaps these trees, some of them could have been spared.
that neighborhood is really in the last 5 years
And
taking a beat.
the wind buffer of those trees, it's just a darn shame for that neighborhood, a darn shame for them. And it just seems so obvious to me. But so again, just education and working with the developers and builders and architects. I don't know, we could just work a little better, harder. So there's growth.
We make some trees.
Hey, I have a question for you. Are you at the Urban Forestry Center?
So I'm actually up in Allenstown right now because I've got another meeting after this.
Okay, because I wanted to drop off those samples.
You can leave them over at the door. Norman's around there today, and I'll be back late this afternoon.
All right.
And also, did you all get the piece of literature from Eversource in your bill, or when they sent it out about pruning your trees and the power lines? Have you seen that?
No.
Why don't I get it? Okay, I'll bring it next time and share it with you.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
we have
Thank you.
a motion
There.
to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in
Yeah.
favor, I think so.
Max, it's so nice to see you.
Max, I feel like you'll laugh at this. So